My sister faked a health crisis to steal my spotlight at graduation as always. I'm 22, male, and finally about to graduate college. The first in my family, which makes it a pretty big deal. I've put in years of long hours and late nights to get here, balancing school and work to make this happen. I wasn't looking for anything over the top to celebrate, just a small family dinner and some quiet acknowledgement. My parents, on the other hand, seemed way more invested in making a big deal about it, especially since this is a big milestone for our family. Now there's my younger sister 2 years behind me who has this habit of hogging attention. Ever since we were kids, she's had a knack for pulling focus back to herself. You name it, birthdays, family holidays, whatever. Somehow she'd always managed to make it about her. Our parents have always brushed it off, laughing it away as girls will be girls whenever she'd do something to disrupt the day. I learned early on that she had a natural talent for shifting the spotlight. It never sat right with me, but over the years I've learned to brush it off too. It's not worth picking a fight when they're going to side with her anyway. Leading up to my graduation, my sister's behavior started getting weird. About a week out, she went from being her usual loud self to sulking and giving one-word answers. She'd disappear into her room for hours and act all closed off, not wanting to join any family conversations about the upcoming ceremony. At first, I thought she might have some end-of-semester stress or something, but then it became clear she was up to something. I brought it up casually to my parents, more like a "Hey, have you noticed something's up with her?" kind of question. They didn't seem bothered. My mom's response? "She's probably just nervous about your big day," Dad agreed, saying something along the lines of how she was still young, she'd be fine. But in the back of my mind I couldn't shake the feeling that she was planning something. After all, she has a pretty consistent track record of pulling some stunt whenever the family's focus isn't on her. Things got stranger when she started making vague social media posts about facing challenges and feeling overwhelmed. She even put up one of those dark, moody photos, the kind where you can't quite tell if someone's crying or just staring off dramatically into the distance. Her friends started commenting stuff like, "Stay strong girl, and you got this." I tried to give her the benefit of the doubt, but the timing was just too perfect. Here I was on the verge of achieving something major and she's suddenly dealing with this struggle she wouldn't name. A few of my friends reached out warning me that my sister might try to pull something at graduation. I laughed it off saying no way she'd do that. Right? But the thought stuck in my head. With my family, I've learned to expect the unexpected, especially when it comes to my sister. The night before graduation, she was acting even weirder. While my parents and I were discussing the logistics for the next day, where we'd sit, when we'd head out, my sister stayed mostly silent, sitting in a corner, looking tired and drained. Just before she went to bed, she muttered something about not feeling well, barely loud enough for anyone to hear. My mom asked if she wanted to see a doctor, but she brushed it off saying she'd be fine. I went to bed with this knot of unease in my stomach, trying to focus on what the day was supposed to mean to me. The morning of graduation was no better. My family got dressed, excited and ready, but my sister looked like she'd been up all night. She was pale, sluggish, and coughing here and there, all while putting on this sad, "I'll be fine" act. It didn't go unnoticed by my mom, who kept suggesting that maybe she should stay home if she wasn't feeling well, but she insisted on coming, saying something like she'd never miss her brother's big day, making herself look like the devoted sibling. That just made me feel more on edge. On the way to the ceremony, she continued coughing, each one louder and more dramatic than the last. My parents seemed glued to her every move, glancing back at her every time she so much as sniffled. I was stuck next to her, trying to tune it out, but her performance was hard to ignore. When we arrived at the venue, my parents' attention was split between excitement for my graduation and concern for my sister. She started leaning on them, talking about how exhausted she felt and making a big show out of even small things like needing help to get up from her seat. My mom hovered over her, fussing with her collar and asking if she was feeling okay. The more they doted on her, the more obvious it was that my graduation wasn't the only thing on everyone's mind. By the time the ceremony started, I felt this heavy mix of excitement and dread. My sister sat beside my mom, pale and lethargic, every few minutes throwing out a dramatic sigh or cough. It was impossible to fully concentrate on the event because I was waiting for whatever stunt she had up her sleeve.